Okay, Kenny, this is Dennis Clark, the golf instructor. It's Saturday morning, 12/7, and your lesson was on Friday, 12/6. So we're going to review it for you, and I'll break it down and show you where it is right now and what the goal is going forward. So your first, I'll show you the whole thing, and then show you what I think we should start with, and depending upon how far you want to go with it. The first thing you do is you pull the club way inside, and the face gets very shut. Okay, it's very flat in the plane. Now it's further inside. And you can see how deep it gets. By deep, I mean how far behind. Well, let me do it this way, and I'll show you a better example here. Get a model up. So you can see when the club gets to this point in the swing, which is right about where you are, belt high with your hands. His hands and his club are still very much out in front of him, and your club's traveling behind you. And it goes up that way, and his begins to go up that way. Okay? So you have no wrist set on the backswing, which equates to a very flat swing. Okay, so he gets the club up there with the hands right over the shoulder, arm on about that plane. So somewhere along the line, I think you picked up or you were taught to get your arms and club way inside, and you can see the difference in how far your hands are behind you versus where his hands are over his right shoulder. So the only alternative you have now is to come down. Okay, you add to that a little bit of length, you're way across the line now. His backswing here is finished, and for a middle iron that would be really as far as you want to go. And then when this is just an average tour player, when it comes down, the golf club points at or outside the ball. And when you start down, so you have a swing really in two parts, extremely flat going back and extremely vertical coming down. So I chose to try to deal with the downswing first and see how far we can get without really digging into that backswing. Okay, because the goal is, the biggest problem is this part of your swing, when you start down. That's extremely steep. The ideal place for the angle of the club to play golf on would be at the ball or on a line, on a point on the line of the ball, right? So kind of that's where he's going roughly. Yours is pointed here. Okay, so this is the angle of his club pointed, or that's the angle of his club pointed at the ball, and yours is pointed down here. That's the number one issue that we have to deal with, because that's a very inconsistent position, and the time between now and hitting the ball is very, very short, very, very short. So you have to kind of raise that handle to make room for yourself. And you can see where you are versus where you started. Way forward of where you started with the club. Here, actually in pretty good shape, pointed at, it's on a good angle to start with. So you got what's called a lie angle. And then you come into the ball, and the club's pointed way up there. So we've got to get you more on an inclined plane. See where his club's pointed down here, just pretty much where he started. This is the goal of golf. All right. So the question is, how are we going to get there, right? Well, I think you have to develop a feeling. Wherever I've had most success with this lesson over the years is you get a feeling of playing golf sidearm. Skipping a stone, throwing a pitch sidearm, whatever image it helps. We need you to think and feel more along these lines for delivery of the club. So I'm going to leave the flat back, but I'm going to try to keep it flat coming down. Because if you typically, historically what I've seen over years and years of teaching this is if I make the club more on plane going back, it's going to get worse, even steeper than it is coming down. So we've got to live with some of this flat takeaway. Now, what I did change about your takeaway is I'd like to change the length. Okay, so you don't want to, from there, you would want to, we could call that a full backswing. It'd be great. Because again, here you're pretty well pointed at the golf ball, right? Well, when it goes across there, now it's going to be pointed at something very different than the golf ball. So you're doing all that extra work, which is actually, causing the problem, that last part of the backswing. So we go shorter, much shorter going back, and we'll leave the flat, and we call it 1/3 of your swing behind you, maybe 2/3 of your swing in front of you. That means the body has to come through once the golf club gets on an angle that will allow you to come through. So you see, not over the top. That's the difference. Over the top is the direction, meaning, to the left or outside the plane line. That's not the issue. The issue would be the angles that you play golf on, and that's the inconsistency. You can hit the toe, you can hit the heel, top it, really hook it sometimes because you're coming hard from the inside, and then you use the hands to, you have to manipulate the swing with your hands. That's what I'm trying to get away from. I'd like to get it a little bit more consistent with the use of the body connected to the arms and not the hands. So I would stop lifting that left heel right there. I would really think that this is something that can change. And again, coming back to how I said it to you in the beginning, how I'm only going to try to change the things I think you can change, and it would be worth your while. So you want to stay over the golf ball. You're swaying way off the golf ball. All your weight is out here now. You're that far behind the ball. And it's hard to get consistent. You can play, every day, all day. You might get lucky once in a while, and by your own eye-hand skills, time that. But that's a problem. So you got to stay over the ball as much as you possibly can. I'd stop lifting that left heel because you don't need to. You're supple, and you don't need to do it. And here, this has to come off the ground. So this one should stay planted, and this is the one that needs to come off when you come through. Because if you keep that down and swing it like that, you're going to hook it. Okay? So in summary, what has to happen for you, and to get a little bit more consistent with your golf swing, is you got to shorten your swing, keep your weight, your sternum centered over the golf ball, shorten the backswing, and you got to feel like you're delivering the club sidearm when you come in. You got to deliver the club sidearm when you come in. This is the part of the swing, whereas if you're going to go from up in the 20s to down in the teens handicap, that has to go. It's a whole move that could be eliminated. It's like too steep. So you want to feel like, I want you to do that drill where you put it on a high tee and or you can get on a hill here. You can get on an incline with the ball above your feet. Side hill above your feet, and put the golf ball up here, and then just really get used to swinging some sidearm pitches or skipping a stone across a pond. That'll get you out of this habit of starting down so vertically, and then we have some progress as soon as that part breaks. Okay, there you go.